Thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. I'm Aaron Porras, here with ILTV's morning briefing. Airstrikes in Syria have just killed at least 10 fighters from a militant jihadist group with ties to the Islamic State. Sources on the ground have accused Israel of carrying out the attack, though no evidence has yet been offered, and the IDF has given no comment. Friction has certainly been spiking between Israel and Syria lately, and though the army has carried out airstrikes there in the past, those were usually Hezbollah targets or retaliation attacks. Just last week, Israeli jets returning from an intelligence mission in Lebanon were fired upon by Syrian anti-aircraft rockets. The jets retaliated by destroying the Syrian weaponry, igniting a tense war of words between Syria and Israel. No evidence has been offered at this time as to why Israel is believed to be behind this new attack, and many doubt the IDF would carry out such a risky operation, given that it has little to do with Israeli security. At least 10 casualties have been reported from the airstrike on the Jaish Khalid bin Walid group's base, which is close to the Golan Heights. The faction is not officially part of the Islamic State, but has pledged devout allegiance to it and its mission to spread terror. A rare pairing came together in New York last night as former Mossad director Ephraim Halevi and former director of Saudi General Intelligence Prince Turki Al-Faisal met to discuss different issues in the Middle East at a public event. The meeting of these two men comes at the heels of Saudi Arabia's recent denial of Prince Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud's visiting Israel. The two countries have absolutely no formal diplomatic ties. Even at the forum, Al-Faisal said he never contacted Israeli diplomats or representatives until after his retirement, and would even now refuse to speak with active members of the Israeli government. That being said, there have been several reports of secret talks between the two nations. The main topics at the forum were on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, Iran, the JCPOA nuclear agreement, and the conflict in Syria. On Iran, while Halevi claimed that the nuclear agreement was the best option at the time, Al-Faisal disagreed, saying the JCPOA deal could not be scrapped at this point, but pressure on Iran can be reinstated. The pair do agree, however, that Iran is the biggest threat to the Middle East, though Al-Faisal insisted on Israel needing to fix the issue with the Palestinians before possibly being able to join up against the Iranian regime. The Israeli High Court of Justice has just ruled against the settlement of NETIV HaAvot in Gush Etzion, saying the entire outpost must be demolished. The outpost is deemed as being either wholly or partially on Palestinian land, and was therefore ordered to be razed. This decision comes despite backing from the state, though, on the settlers' counter-proposal to destroy only the properties firmly placed on Palestinian land. Supreme Court President Miriam Naor wrote on the ruling that she was not trying to belittle, quote, the difficulties of the petitioners in being uprooted from their homes, but that in contrast to other cases in which the circumstances justified partial demolition, and that was specifically stated, in this case it wasn't said that we would suffice with that. The decision in this case was based on the factual premise that even though we were dealing with divided homes, these were cases of all or nothing, end quote. 2 structures have already been torn down. The remaining 15 in the NETIV HaAvot settlement will be down by March 2018. Rio de Janeiro, Brazil is home to many cultures from around the world, and the city's residents are celebrating it. The first ever Jewish street festival in Rio debuted just the other day with 9,000 participants, Jewish and not. Rio's mayor, Marcelo Crivella, said, quote, respect for all religions is fundamental in a city that is already experiencing anomalous violence, and we do not need any kind of religious phobia. The fact that there are so many people here who are not from the Jewish community is a demonstration of the tolerance that must exist between all religions, end quote. This was rumored to be the largest outdoor Jewish gathering ever held in Rio, Brazil's second largest city and home to 30,000 Jewish residents. The festival featured dance, cinema, literature, science, food, and much, much more. ANZAC, or the Australian and New Zealand Armed Corps, fought with the British against the Germans in World War I. They also took part in the battles of Tzemach and Beersheba, 2 key fronts that later became known as some of the last great cavalry battles, as well as the inspiration for the 1941 movie 40,000 Horsemen. Well, now, nearly 100 years since the end of the war, the descendants of those ANZAC soldiers are here in Israel for commemorative visits and reenactments across those same battlegrounds. Perhaps the most important thing about this trip, though, is what it means for the Aboriginal descendants, whose grandfathers and great-grandfathers served in the Corps. 12 of the participants of the trip are from the Rona Tranby Trust, which is dedicated to preserving the history of the Aboriginal ANZAC soldiers, most of whom were discriminated against both before and after the war. Doris Patton, who is writing a book about her great-grandfather, said, quote, "This story of the contribution of Aboriginal soldiers in the First World War isn't as well known, so it's opportunity to share this story with Australia." End quote. It's estimated that as many as a quarter of the 4,500 Australian forces in what would later become British Mandate Palestine and then Israel were Aboriginal. That's all for now. I'm Aaron Porras, and see you later with our main daily broadcast from Israel at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.